We'll get started. I think there's still some people joining. I appreciate some people are still coming from work, but we'll get started. We've got myself and Miss Townsend here. So hopefully what we want to do is, obviously this is the last parent information evening, and we want to just give an opportunity for parents and carers to answer, and students to ask any questions that you might have before we go into the full exam season, which is obviously only 3 weeks away. So that's crept up on us quickly. So hopefully today gives you all of the answers to any questions you have. Obviously, if you think of some after the forum that you don't want to perhaps ask in front of everyone else, then just our emails are on the screen. Just drop us an email. So you have myself and Miss Townsend as the co-heads of year this year. And then you've got Miss O'Malley and Miss Awajobi. Miss O'Malley wasn't in last term, but she is back in this term. So you've got full team available to you. So just in terms of the agenda, we want to talk about post-16 applications and enrolment, exam preparation and support, exam season arrangements, exam routines and regulations, talk a little bit about prom, and then have time for some questions at the end. Obviously this information evening 3 of 3, so this is the last one that we do. We started these in lockdown, and we found that parents tend to find these quite helpful. So obviously was something that we've continued till the end of the year. But like I said, please don't hesitate to get in contact if you have any questions from now or throughout the exam period, because we know it's quite a stressful time for the students. We want to make sure that everyone feels supported. So just a reminder of those routes of contact. Some of you are directly in contact with ourselves anyway, and that's fine. Obviously the tutor is the main point of contact. Just a note on 11I, Miss Tappin is still not back in for this term.
Anyway, right?
Sorry, if I can just ask you to mute your mics, please. Thank you. So Miss Tappin's not back in this term yet. We're hoping she will be in later this term, but for now, Miss Luna and Miss Ali, who have covered that tutor group 11I, will continue to do so. And myself and Miss Townsend, we pop into those tutor groups. So please just keep us in the loop if you have any concerns about students that are in 11I. So I'll move straight on to post-16 applications and enrolment. So in terms of the application process, all students should now have applied to at least 3 post-16 providers. It's likely that they will have heard back from, or they should have heard back from, all of those placements now. Some places offer conditional offers, some don't. Some just say if you meet the entry requirements on the day, then obviously you can come and enroll. All the references from our side, as far as we are aware, are completed. Up until this point, we don't have any emails kind of floating around from colleges. So if you feel like there is something outstanding, please contact the tutor directly, but then CC myself or Miss Townsend in so we can chase everything. As far as I'm aware, everything is sorted in that respect, and we haven't had for quite a while now anything to chase. In terms of if your child is waiting for a response or haven't had a conditional offer, or you're not quite sure, then just get in contact with whatever college or sixth form or provider they have applied for, just to make sure that you get all of that information and you're not left waiting. And again, CC us in if you want us to support with that, because our careers team can help with that. So Miss Wasami has been really great. She's still offering support to some of the students that still need a little bit of guidance with where to go, and some people kind of moving house and moving areas, so she's helping with that. But there are career support meetings continuing for students that need it, but you can reach out directly to Miss Wasami if need be, and her email is on the screen, and we'll pop this PowerPoint on class charts as we usually do, so you'll be able to have access to speak with Miss if need be. But she's really great. She's got a really good understanding of the process across various different providers. So if you do feel like your child needs a bit more guidance, then please just let us know. And again, always CC us in so we're aware of anything should it need following up. So in terms of what enrolment looks like, we haven't spoke about that before. So results day for Stoke Newington and all of GCSE results across the country is Thursday, the 22nd of August. So the results are sent in to school, and then we're open from 9 AM. You will receive a letter about this nearer the time. But results day is 22nd of August. The students need to come in and get their results from 9 AM. I can't remember the exact time that the school closes, but like I said, it'll be in a letter. And then students can essentially enroll from the time that they get their results. So they will be sent in advance. If you've applied for Stoke Newington School, or if you've applied for any other provider, they will send you a letter or an email nearer the time telling you what the enrolment process is. So for sixth form here, you'll be sent an email containing a link and you enroll online. So essentially you input the grades that you received, and you go through all of the kind of enrolment process via the portal that you applied originally. If your child applied but didn't get a conditional offer, but then on the day they do actually get the results they need, then they just go into via the usual link. They'll get the same correspondence as any other student that received a conditional offer, and they just go in and enroll online. There is quite a short deadline on that. I believe last time it was only a couple of days, if that. So you will, in that letter, be pointed to how much time you have to enroll, or how much time your child has to enroll. So just make sure once they get their results, they enroll straight away. If they're coming into the school to collect their results anyway, they can. There will be staff on hand to help them enroll there and then, if they wish to do that. And just, I guess, look out in kind of junk email folders as well, because some of these emails don't always go directly to your inbox, particularly the ones from other providers. There'll be staff on site at SNS if you're applying for SNS, as there will be at other colleges and sixth forms on GCSE results day to support students, particularly those who don't meet the required grades for their chosen subjects. So if that's for SNS, then obviously we will look at trying to keep the students in any way possible. So either to pick alternate subjects that might have different entry requirements, or looking at different pathways, or we'll have our careers team on hand and sixth form team on hand to support with perhaps we need to look at other colleges or sixth form or providers. Just one kind of point on collecting results. We do want students to come in to get the results. One, although it's a daunting day, it's a nice day to have them come in and collect their results and see them all that one last time. But also we are meant to give the results directly to them. So if they can't come in for whatever reason, we do just need advance notice. So if you've booked a holiday or anything, we just need to know who is coming in to collect those results, so we can kind of verify that that is the person that's coming to collect them. So if we don't hear from anybody prior to results day, we will assume that the child is going to come and collect them themselves. Parents are welcome to come along too, but we need to know the name of the person that's going to collect them if it's going to be somebody else. Obviously, they can then share those results with you if you're away, but we can't send anything electronically. So you just need to have somebody that can come and pick them up, preferably a family member, and just let us know in advance. So if your child doesn't get the grades, if your child doesn't secure their place on results day, so obviously I said that we would have staff on hand at the sixth form here at Stoke Newington, but other colleges also have walk-in enrolment days where students can enrol. So if you've applied to other college and sixth forms, they will let you know how that process works for those other colleges. And some colleges do offer retakes for maths, some also for English as well. And again, they'll let you know if you didn't meet the grades, then in the enrolment process, they'll let you know those colleges. So at the minute, we know of those being B6 College, Westminster Kingsway and New City College. They all allow students to retake maths and English GCSE. So that's kind of the first part. I'll go to the questions just for everything at the end, just to make it easier. So if you've got any questions, obviously just keep them to the side for a second. So in terms of exam preparation and support, we speak to the students about this a lot, but we wanted to talk to the parents about that as well. So in terms of planning revision, we've said before that students should plan to complete revision little and often, and that will help them to recall, obviously, the huge amount of information that they have to try and remember across all of the subjects and all of the exams. Students should prioritise revision from now until the middle of June based on their exam timetable. So one of the tasks that we'll be completing with them during morning registration is to give them a copy of their exam timetable, rank the exams in order that they are coming up, and make sure that they're kind of planning their revision in order that the exams are actually happening, and make sure that they're focusing on the right exams at the right times. The tutors do have spare copies of the exam timetables. I've emailed them again to them today, so please do just get in touch with the tutor if the child has lost their exam timetable, which quite often happens. Students really need to think about the May half term. It's something that we've started to talk to them about. Obviously, we want them to find a balance of cooling off in between exam season and that May half term that sits in the middle. But we do want to make sure that students think about that ahead of time and how they use that time to really kind of boost certain subjects and really focus on certain subjects. The same as the Easter half term, there will be some subjects available to come in and help run some interventions in that half term. So we'll continue to post those on class charts and get that out to parents so you are aware. And one thing that we do really want to push is the green revision book. So students have been given a green how to revise CGP book. Students that are using these are finding them really helpful. Obviously, there'll be some students that perhaps don't think they're that helpful or perhaps haven't given them enough time. There are some useful revision tips in the booklet, but one of the main things that we want students to use the book for is at the back. There are some subject pages where their teachers in lessons will be giving them certain topics that they would like that child to work on based on the feedback from their exams that they did most recently. So it's really important that they have that green book with them at school. We don't have spare copies of it. We did only order enough for the amount of students that we have. If they have lost it, we do have access to an online edition. We just need to give them a code in order to do that, and they're unique codes. So please just make sure that your child has that with them each day. And if they're stuck on what to revise at home, they should be able to get their green revision book out and tell you exactly the topics that their teachers have told them to revise. So that's a really useful book. And then kind of the same thing as last time, if students have no idea how to revise at this point, they're kind of overwhelmed with revision, they don't know what to prioritize, please just encourage them to go to the think tank. It's open at lunch, it's open after school. It's certainly getting busier, and it's been busy over the last couple of days. So please just make sure that they go to the think tank, staffed by Mr Ventura, who I know we've heard from before, who's our assistant head in charge of teaching and learning. And he's really great at supporting students on how to revise, what to revise, where to revise it, and really putting a plan together with them. So please encourage them to use that space. We do want to open that up to 2 floors. And I think we will be able to, based on the amount of students that are using that. So additional support that is available in school. Obviously, we have the school website, which has some nice, useful videos and links, and it gives an idea of what the students have been learning. So you can look at the topics. You've got how to revise booklets that were given to all students during a drop-down day, and we have more copies of those if students want to pick them up from the think tank. The green revision booklets, as I've mentioned. The Monday morning registration is always dedicated to planning their revision for the week, but then the registration times have kind of been freed up of tasks as such, so that students can just use that morning registration to focus on revision. Could be quizzing each other with revision cards or quotes that they need to learn, but we've opened up that kind of time in the morning to make sure they are revising. Obviously, during that time, tutors share important messages as well, but tutors are encouraging students to revise during that time. So it's really important that they're in first thing in the day. And obviously, if they get 20 minutes of revision out the way in the morning, that's a really nice way of saying, right, I've revised that subject for today, that one's done, and making the most out of that time. During that time, they use revision tickets as well. We're pushing them more and more, so students know exactly what it is they should be revising, and using their tutors to help them kind of pin down what they're going to revise that evening or that weekend. And then we still have Homework Club open in the library. Some people prefer that space to the think tank, so they can use the library as well. The library's open till 5 o'clock every day. One of the best things you can do at home, quite often parents get in touch to say, what is it we can do? The best thing really that parents can do, obviously students find it difficult when parents are constantly asking them if they're revising or how to help with revise, and not all children want their parents to help with that, we understand. But any opportunities to quiz your child on any kind of quotes, any formula that they need to know, just little quick wins that you can do with them for 10 minutes, and then rewarding revision if possible, and where possible, could be small rewards, big rewards, whatever you're in the position to do, but just making sure they are rewarded throughout this process and acknowledged really goes a long way with them. So in terms of the interventions, the Year 11 interventions will continue. So the after school interventions will continue until the 9th of May. So the 9th of May is when the exams kick in, the written exams in the sports hall. So beyond that date, then the routines will change slightly. So beyond this, the interventions will continue, but additional sessions will be held for subjects where the exam is the following day. So for example, if there's a maths exam on Wednesday, then the maths department will run their intervention after school the day before. So the exam time or the revision timetable and intervention timetable kind of goes out the window, and students will go to the subjects that they need to go to because they have an exam the following day. So I hope that makes sense. Obviously, around that, if students want to see their teachers for other subjects, they can. But if there's a certain exam the next day, then the priority will go to that exam subject. Some subjects will offer Saturday interventions. So we know that maths have asked for a couple of Saturdays where they could perhaps run intervention sessions that will be open to all students. And I know that other subjects have offered to do the same. So again, just keep an eye on class charts announcements, and that's where we'll share that information. Obviously, they're just based on whether staff are available and kind of willing to do that. But we're hoping to run as many sessions as we can before the exams, particularly where there's a big break between perhaps two exams and trying to run, or there's no lessons for that particular subject between two exams. Teachers will do their best to put something on for them. And just a reminder of what the intervention timetable is up until the 9th of May. So same as it has been. And just making sure that children go to as many of these as possible. It's particularly the coursework subjects and just finishing off those last bits of coursework, which I know teachers are contacting home about. So in terms of exam season arrangements, supported study is what we offer at SNS. We don't give students study leave. Students don't receive study leave at SNS. All students benefit greatly from being taught by their teachers in their usual lessons or in classrooms that are set up for learning. So this maximises the impact of the lessons, or to maximise the impact of the lessons, sorry, we've put the following things in place. So normal lessons will be taught up until the 9th of May when the written exams start. After the 9th of May, lessons will be taught as normal. However, there will be some lessons where there are fewer students due to exams taking place at the same time. So obviously, if there's exams on in the morning, but not all of the students will necessarily have that exam, there are going to be lessons where there's perhaps half the amount of students in the class. Sometimes there'll be very, very few students in the class. These are really, really purposeful and good lessons. We want students to make sure they take the opportunity here to receive closer support from teachers, which they cannot normally get from a large class. So we will encourage students to make the most of this. And by May half term, there's actually only a few subjects that will have finished with the students completely. So it makes sense that lessons remain as normal as possible up until May half term. And during these lessons, students will be supported by their teacher to revise for other subjects. So if a student's finished perhaps with art, then they will still go to art, but that will become a revision lesson. We can make sure that those groups are therefore small. Some students have asked if we could open like a central space where they could revise, but actually that becomes quite difficult to manage a large space with a lot of students in. It's actually much better if they just go to their usual lessons, and then that teacher is told that they must allow those students to revise. They must create a calm space in the same way as they would have a usual lesson, and we'll be providing those teachers with resources as well to support study. But obviously we want students to be coming in each day with their own revision resources that they know that they need for those subjects. Off the back of that, during PPP lessons and PE lessons, students from next week will have the option to participate in these lessons as normal, or they can revise for other subjects. So for PE, obviously some students will want to do their PE. That will be really important for their health and just for their mental health. And generally, if they enjoy PE, they can still go and do PE. They'll split the year group. So some will go and do PE, some will be taken to a computer room to go and revise. So we give them an extra revision lesson there. And the same for PPP as well. We've taught all of the compulsory PPP units for year 11. So those lessons will open up for PPP. That'll be from Monday, the 24th of April. We'll open those lessons up to being revision lessons as well. And again, we want students to stay in their normal lesson, register with their teacher, stay where they're meant to be, but we'll provide them with a space where they can learn, and the teacher can support them with that. Where students have an exam in the afternoon, they will be allowed to revise during their morning lessons for the exam they have in the afternoon. We're going to make that quite clear to teachers that they must let them revise. That helps them to be calm, knowing that they've got the kind of morning before to prepare for that afternoon exam. So it's really important that we give them that space to do so. The teacher for some students may kind of want to deliver some form of lesson to the rest of the class. So we ask that students just kind of sit at the back of the room and quietly revise for that subject, whether they want to do that in pairs, or the teacher might say they need to do that in silence, depending on what they're trying to deliver to the rest of the class. But we do want to give them that option. One thing we have said is that students cannot use their own devices or phones for revision in class. That becomes very complex, creates a lot of issues, a lot of students off task. So we can't have any phones in classrooms, but where possible, laptops or computers will be booked. We do have a lot of laptop trolleys at the school, so we're encouraging teachers to book them so they are available to the students. Some of the classrooms have computers around the perimeter anyway, so we can ask teachers to allow students to use them. But obviously the most important thing is that students are actually bringing revision resources to the lessons, so they always have something to hand if they're asked to revise. We need to make sure that students remain in the classroom. They can't walk around to find teachers if they want kind of study support. If any teachers are available, and what we'll make clear to teachers, if they're available and they would like to support a student in a lesson where they're perhaps done with that subject, they can go to that lesson, they can collect them and take them back to their department to work with that student, either individually or in small groups. But students need to go to their usual lessons that they're being taught. So we're starting to get the question of when does study leave begin? So we don't do study leave at Stoke Newington School. That said, obviously there does become a point in June where there is almost no point coming to their lessons if most of those subjects are completed. So we understand that. So there will become a point in the timetable where we do say students do not need to come in anymore. It's usually around the middle of June. We purposely don't tell students that exact date because if we all know that when we kind of go into holiday mode, just before we go into holiday, sometimes we start to wind down. We also find from previous experience that sometimes we have behaviour issues start to creep in when students know that it's kind of their last few days at school. So we don't tell them that. We understand that can be quite unsettling for some students. So we'll work with some students that need that kind of closer support. But there will become a point in the exam period where we say, okay, today is your last day, and then we will dismiss them and inform parents that we have dismissed them. So that just makes sure that they are always learning up until the end, and that we're able to dismiss them in an orderly way. And obviously some will still have exams to complete, but we will let you know, and it tends to be around about the middle of June that happens. Beyond that, the lessons are not compulsory. Obviously, we don't want students coming in all day if they've only actually got 2 subjects left on their timetable, but they can still come in for those lessons and their teachers will be available in their classrooms should they want to come in for those lessons. And some teachers will put on specific lessons where they say, we really do encourage you to come in because I'm going to do an intervention on a certain subject or teach a certain subject. And we do tend to see from previous years that students actually do come in after that date. The school, like I said, will notify parents on the day via text when students are being dismissed for the study leave. And that is, sorry, my screen has just blacked out. This supports students to remain focused up until the final day. So that's it for that section. And then just going on to exam routines and regulations. So this isn't really anything that we've spoke to parents and carers about before, but it is something that the students are very aware of. We have shared with students previously, and we will share again, the exam rules and regulations from the exam board that we have to share with them and they have to read. They will be aware of all of these. Like I said, we'll put this on class charts again. It is good if you can go through this with your child and just kind of reiterate the exam expectations. From the mocks that we've done, obviously since year 9, they're well drilled on these expectations. They are very well behaved in the exam and do take it very seriously. The one thing I would say is that just to make sure that students know that they arrive at school at 8:20 if they have a morning exam. So we want to get students up at 8:30, and normally school starts at 8:30, so they need to be at school at 8:20 so we can register them really quickly and get them up into the exams before the rest of the students start moving around the building. That becomes quite difficult, so it's really important they are here that 10 minutes earlier when they have a morning exam. Individuals with extra time will have a card placed on their exam table stating the amount of extra time given. Toilet breaks are not allowed 15 minutes before the end of the exam, and they cannot communicate in any way possible, not even to help another student. We always say to them, even if someone sneezes, don't say anything. And your seat number is given to them by their tutor. So these are exam rules. These are not school rules. You can't borrow anything from another candidate during the exam. And if you leave the exam room unaccompanied, then you're not allowed to return to the exam. And obviously you can't talk or wait for others outside the exam hall. They've been very, very good at that whole process, and they're well drilled, like I said. Just in terms of the schools set up for entrance to exams, so students arrive at school for 8:20, not 8:30. It's vital students are on time. This ensures we get students registered and prepared in good time. We have to get students to their exams before lessons start and before other students are moving around the building. It also supports a really calm start, that we know that we've got time. Should there be any issues, that we can sort a student out, we can get things that they need, we can get them nice and calm and prepared. The students come in, they go to the Bluebird Cafe, they sit in their tutor groups, they take their coats off, they get their equipment out, and they sit calmly whilst their tutors register them. And then at 8:30, myself and the subject lead and Ms Townsend will give them some last minute advice, and then we send them up to their exam group by group. Students must have their correct equipment, their uniform, their school shoes, and their full lanyard. And to be fair to them, for the mock exams, they always seem to manage that. All watches must be removed. It used to be smart watches. It's now all watches need to be removed. That's an exam rule. It's exam rule, not the school rule. Labels need to be removed from water bottles, and lids have to be removed from calculators. And upon entry into the exam hall, students are screened by the invigilators. So there are detection wands that they are wandered with to check for kind of anything they shouldn't have, phones, whatever else, prohibited items that they should not have in an exam. So they are used to this. This is something that we have done throughout the mocks. Again, it's exam rules, not the school rules. So they're used to that as they go in. They know the items they shouldn't have. They know that they must have a see-through pencil case. They know exactly what they should have in their pencil case. Just before we started this meeting, I have posted this on class charts as a homework task to make sure that every child has their full equipment. They are allowed a highlighter. They're just not allowed to write their answer using a highlighter. They can use a highlighter to highlight text, which can be helpful. So they need to have at least 2 pens, pencil, ruler, everything that you can see on the screen. I've just highlighted 2 calculator models. Obviously, there are other brands and other calculators. I just wanted to point out the calculator on the left. If your child has bought this calculator, or you've bought this calculator for your child recently, they're a fairly new model. They're not necessarily something that as a school we have used a lot, and they're therefore something that perhaps the students haven't used much of. They need to make sure that they know how to use that calculator. So it's fine if they have that one on the left. They might find it super easy to use, and that's fine. But it does work very differently to previous models, like the one shown on the right, or the ones that are older than that. So just wanted to highlight that. Just check they definitely know kind of basic things like how to turn a fraction into a decimal and then into a percent. There's various different things these calculators can do. They just need to know how to use the buttons, and the buttons are very different to the calculator on the right. Clear water bottles, like I said, they need to have the label removed. Calculators cannot have their lids on. Often the lids contain formula and different bits and pieces. Black biro pens, it says there that you can't write in different color pens. You can use a highlighter to highlight text. Like I said, ban on watches. So that was brought in this year. They can't have any type of watches, but clocks will be displayed in each exam room. We did send out some contingency sessions earlier in the year. So Thursday, the 6th of June in the afternoon, Thursday, the 13th of June in the afternoon, and Wednesday, the 26th of June in the morning. These are 3 sessions that the exam board have said that students must keep clear. These are in the event that anything should happen where an exam has to be rescheduled or cancelled. I have not known that to happen during my time in teaching, but we are always asked to keep apart some dates just in case something were to happen and they had to move an exam. There's the 3 slots that they would move them into. So just take a note of those 3 dates and just make sure that your child is aware of when they are. Obviously, in the event that that would happen, we would give you notice, as much notice as possible, to say that exam has been moved to that date. Like I said, I've never known that to happen. In terms of the prom and the leavers hoodies, Miss Townsend is kind of overseeing that process and the setting up of the prom, but Miss is looking for some volunteers to help. I know we've got some already, and I know some of them are on the call, so thank you very much for your support. It is obviously something that we need to push on with. We team up with the Year 13s as well to kind of deliver the prom together, so obviously on separate days, but we kind of mirror what the Year 13s do as well. But if you would like to support with that, we do need volunteers for the committee and to help on the evening. Please just email Miss Townsend so we can have your support with that in any way possible. And just in terms of support, I'm going to talk in a second about the tickets. When the tickets go on to Parent Pay, one thing that we will put on there is the option to purchase a ticket. We'll also have an option on there to donate any additional money. Obviously, that's not compulsory. It does help, though. We don't get a budget for the school prom. We try to price the tickets as low as possible to make it as inclusive as possible and everyone can come. It doesn't quite cover the cost of itself, the prom, so any donations are greatly received, and it just ensures that everybody is able to come to the prom, because not everyone can afford a ticket, and it just allows us to ensure everyone's there. So the prom is Wednesday the 26th of June. We will be sending out, we're just finalising a few more points on that. We'll be sending out a letter that explains everything, but just wanted to mark the date in your diary. There will be a parent and carer celebration assembly at the start of the prom, which is something that we usually do. So that will be in the sports hall. So we'll ask you to come in with your child. Be an opportunity to obviously have pictures with kind of friends and other students. We will have a celebration assembly, and then we will send parents and carers home, and obviously then send the students down to the prom. The prom will be at the school site. I know some students are disappointed in that, and they wanted to have maybe the town hall or different places. We gave the students the opportunity to look into that. So we had a prom committee in school. It does cost a lot of money to hire a venue, and there are other complications with that as well, taking 255 students onto another site. And we wanted to make sure that the prom was as inclusive as possible and affordable as possible. So that is a cost that we didn't want to add to parents as well. So the prom will be on site. They are usually on site, and they're very good as well. And once students are all together and they have everything there, they really enjoy themselves, as you can see from these photos for some previous proms. So in terms of the prices, we are just confirming them, so they are just to be confirmed, but approximately £20 for the prom and around £18 for a hoodie. Obviously, the photo I'm showing you has the class of 22, they will be the class of 24. So we are just confirming those with the suppliers, the hoodies, and then the prom costs we're almost there with in terms of working out. So we hope to get a letter out very soon regarding the prom. And then how do you order the prom tickets and the hoodies? Well, that will all be on Parent Pay. There'll be a section just for learning resources, which you'll be used to, and then under that there'll be a section for the prom, and everything will be there along with the donation for any additional funds that you can offer. Obviously, we encourage students to kind of dress to impress, but we understand that for some parents that is going to be difficult. So please just get in touch with the school. We want everyone to be there. We will help in the best way that we can, and we want to make sure that every student, you know, can enjoy that experience and celebrate the end to what's been a kind of very strange journey, I guess, for this year group in terms of lockdown and everything that thrown at us. So just to finish, obviously student wellbeing is really, really important, and we know that students find this period difficult. Some students have found Year 11 difficult already, and obviously we want to support them in the best way possible. So please do speak up, let us know if children are struggling. We are telling the teachers not to, there's a fine line between good stress that motivates and bad stress. We want to make sure that, they're not having constant reminders that they're 3 weeks away, but there is a fine line between motivating them as well.
Mr Critoph, can I just add something to this, actually?
Yeah, sure.
Just actually, if you flip the slide forward, Amin, who we work with quite closely, he's actually running an exam stress workshop next Tuesday. I know that some people have been to it before, and I'm going around to see how helpful they found it. But if you think that your child might benefit from this, it's just a 1 hour session. We've got 2 sessions going, and it'll be the last sessions before the exams start. Please get in contact with me, and then I can follow up. So if you think this might be something that might benefit from, please do let me know. Just drop me an email and then I can follow up with them.
Brilliant, thanks, Miss. So that is everything that I had from the slides. So obviously we now open up to questions. Before we do that, I just do want to say, like, obviously we will hopefully see as many of you as possible from now until the exam period and results day and at the prom, but just to say a massive thank you for all of your support. It has been a real rocky road from year 7 to year 11, and obviously the bit in the middle was very challenging, and we've always had really good support from the year group, and it's not always easy to have that parental and parent and school kind of free-flowing contact. So thank you for your support. And yeah, we'll just go over to questions. If you've got a question, you can either pop it in the chat or you can put your hand up.
Hi, Mr Critoph, sorry about that.
Hello.
Just the day that they all sign the T-shirts, you know, that day when everyone gets their T-shirt signed by each other, what day is that? Is that day the prom day, or is that day the day you're dismissing them for study leave?
Yeah, so that's the day that we dismiss them. So what normally happens is we want all of that to happen kind of not on the school grounds when there's other students about, because it can be quite disruptive to the rest of the school. So we basically dismiss them. We have a leavers assembly. We then dismiss them out to the park, and they do all of that business at the park. We staff the park, so we will all be there with their tutors, and we remain there until kind of students fizzle off and go home. But they do that on that day. Obviously, that will be before their last exam. So although they can sign a shirt, they'll need a spare shirt to come in for their other exams. I'm sure they've all got more than one, but just to make them aware of that.
Okay, so essentially it's a day in amongst the exams that you're dismissing them.
Yeah, we will have plenty of pens as well on that day, so they don't need to be armed with a pen on the day, although I'm sure they'll have one.
All right then, thank you.
Thank you. Michelle? Michelle? Okay, I can only see there was one other person with a hand up. If you would like to ask a question and you haven't been able to yet, you're welcome to just unmute your mic. I'm just going to check the chat and just see if there's anything in the chat. How long will prom be? So prom, I think, Miss Townsend, correct me if I'm wrong, we said about parents coming from around 6 o'clock. And then prom starting at 7 and prom ends at 10, although some students kind of move on before that, so 10 being the latest. So 6 till 10, I think is what we said, but we will send out a letter about the prom soon. Just looking through the chat, any other questions? There was an email about a history from the history department about a meeting. I'm not aware of that email, but I can chase that with the head of history and find out a little bit more information. Ms. Townsend, I'm not sure if you know anything about that email.
No, I'm not too sure about that. It might be just maybe email the history department, I think, to find out about that.
Yeah, if you do want to email the history department, email the student's history teacher. And then, okay, someone's saying there was a history meeting at 5. So yeah, just email their history teacher. In the meantime, I'll speak with the head of history as well. And anything that we can get out onto class charts, we'll make sure that any information's on there for you. But I'm not aware of what that meeting was. So results, somebody's asked when results day is. So results day, sorry, it was in my previous slides. Let me just scroll back because I forget, don't want to give you the wrong day. Results day was on the 22nd, Thursday, the 22nd of August.
And sorry, one more question, Mr. Critoph.
Yeah.
On the night of the prom, are all parents invited to the event before the prom, the assembly in the hall, in the sports hall? So all.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Mr Critoph, can I jump in with a question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Can I just ask about the study leave thing?
Yeah.
Just to get it straight. Can you explain the sort of logic of not sort of freeing the kids up to study, you know, when they've got exams coming so thick and fast through that period? I'm just sort of concerned that if you're trying to sit in a class and you've got a maths exam in the afternoon, then you've got English the next morning, and then something else the following afternoon, there's no time to focus there.
Yeah, sure. So up until the May half term, there's only really about 4 subjects that have actually finished with their students. So up until that May half term, the majority of students have the majority of their exams left to do. So that's kind of the reason up to May half term. After May half term, obviously, there's only maybe a few weeks, we're basically saying, before we would then say that they need to be off on what we could say is study leave. But in terms of our previous experience of when we speak to students, a lot of them actually don't want study leave. They know that if they go home, they won't really do much, some of them. And it just levels the playing field for all of the students. So for some students, I'm sure they would go home and they would revise. But for most of our students, having a teacher available to them, whether that's their usual lessons or whether that's a teacher giving them a space that they can kind of make sure that they're revising, is always the best option for our students. So it's not something that we offer students at this school. Okay, but obviously when there becomes a point where they are kind of over, kind of halfway, that is when we do say, okay, at this point it's better that you go home and you come in for the lessons you want to come in for.
Okay, thanks. And just one more. Our daughter's got 3 exams timetabled for one day, 2 in the same afternoon. Is that standard? Something that we can navigate?
Yeah, so there are a couple of students, maybe a handful in the year group, where because of the options they pick, they have a day like that. In that situation, you'll be told what exam they need to focus on for that day, because obviously they won't be able to do them all at once. So let me just. Can you just drop me an email, actually, because I can't see your details on the screen. Can you just drop me an email with that point, just so I can get back to you? Is that all right?
Yeah, will do. It's Rocket Miller.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, let me have a look. Do you know what the date is? In fact, don't worry, I'll look, it's fine. I'm just going to go back to the chat and have a look at if there's anything missing. Someone's messaged about dress code for the prom. We just kind of said,
replying to some of them on the chat just to sort of help you out.
Cool. Okay, you've already done that one. Brilliant. Yep. Okay. There's one about changing a tier for an exam. I think you just have to speak to that they've already been entered for their exam. So at this point, it's very unlikely they would change the tier. But if there is a specific request like that, it'd be better if you just email us directly about your child and the tier and the concern around that one, and then we can answer that one individually. Okay. I don't think there's anything else in the chat. Unless anyone has any other questions, we will end that there. I think a hand's just gone up.
Hi, I just There was somebody asked a question about, will students with extra time be doing their exams in the same space as the other students?
So we have kind of different setups for different exam arrangements. There are some students that have extra time within the main sports hall. There are some students that have other access arrangements in different rooms, but also have the access arrangement of additional time as well. It's very much dependent on each different student's individual setup. If that's something that you want to discuss, if it's because your child has access arrangements and you want to speak to me individually about that, I'm more than happy to. But there are children in the main sports hall that do have extra time, yes. And in the mocks, basically what's happened is the others have been silently dismissed and then they continue with their exam. In terms of the history Q&A, like I said, we'll speak to the head of history about getting that sent out to the year 11 students who sit history, so we make sure they haven't missed anything. But like I said, I'm not entirely sure what that was, so we'll find that information out and we'll update you on that one. Yes, you'll be able to access the PowerPoint from this session, yeah. Okay, I think that's everything. It's really well attended tonight, so thank you very, very much for your support. Is it too late to apply for a bigger A3 exam sheet? Personally, don't know whether there's any formal process to go through for exams being a bigger size. Can you just drop us a direct email on that one, and then we can liaise with the access arrangements team on whether that's possible. Okay. So whoever's question was regarding the A3 exam sheets, just drop us an email and then we'll go through that one with you. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you for your time. We always appreciate that on an evening after work. So just drop us an email if you think of anything beyond this day, and always keep in contact if you're concerned throughout the exam period. But obviously 3 weeks until that first exam on the 9th, further 3 weeks until half term, and then beyond that they have a couple of weeks left, and then we are all done. Thank you very much.